Welcome to Leadership Matters with Dr. Sheryl White, Dr. Undraye Howard, and Dr. Loretta Howard. This is your forum for exploring and discussing challenges that are faced by public and nonprofit leaders. And now, Leadership Matters.
All right, good afternoon. Thank you for tuning into Leadership Matters, Informing Leaders, Inspiring Solutions with the People's Doctors. I am Dr. Undraye Howard, your lead co-host for this afternoon. I am delighted to have with me as well our other co-hosts, Dr. Sheryl White and Dr. Loretta Howard. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
Hello, Dr. Dre.
All right, and we are exploring this whole month stress and leadership. Leaders, do they really have stress? Yeah, they have stress, and they deal with it in different ways. And so we've dedicated this month to really talk a little bit about different aspects of stress. Today, we're going to talk about the weight of the chair, stress, burnout, and the leader's well-being. Every leader knows the weight that comes with being at the helm, but if you talk about it, and they talk about the costs that are associated with that heavy weight as well. And so today, we're going to take an honest look in the hidden role of leadership stress, the sleepless nights, the decision fatigue, the quiet burnout, that a number of us as leaders may experience. And so we'll talk a little bit about healthy pressure as well as harmful strain. And so we'll dip into a little bit of everything around this topic. So it's always glad to talk about a topic that I think really lots of leaders deal with and experience as part of that process. So it's so glad to be able to do that. And before we get into our audience questions, we'll share with you a couple of our happenings later on in the show, to include conflict strategies dealing with conflict, which is going to be in September. So we'll give you some information on that. And we've got other things to share with you as we go throughout this particular show as well. But before we get into our first audience question, just to kind of set the plate here a little bit, the big picture, according to Gallup 2026, roughly 40% of employees worldwide say they experience a lot of stress during the previous day. And that was from a Gallup State of the Global Workplace 2026 report. A figure that hasn't really changed much as we think about the pre-pandemic levels for a number of years. And U.S. Has some of the highest daily stress rates amongst all the regions at 50%, really unchanged from previous years as well. So what do you think, Dr. Sheryl, Dr. Loretta? Is stress real?
It's
Yes.
real.
Absolutely. Very real. So I just wanted to offer you kind of a big picture in terms of what leaders deal with in terms of stress as part of that process. Continue to send in those leadership questions, feedback. We love it all. I mean, we read them, we chump it up, we talk about it amongst ourselves. And so, again, continue to send those questions in, comments, topics you might want to explore. Leadership Matters questions at innovisions.org. And so we'll put that up later on so folks can get the right spelling of each of those words so you can tap into that as well. So let's get to our first audience question. And this one is from a nonprofit executive in the Midwest, I believe this question's coming from. Here they are. I lead a small team, and honestly, there's no one to delegate to. Everyone tells me to set boundaries, take time off, but the work doesn't stop when I do. How do I manage stress when stepping away simply isn't an option? Very good question. Very good question. Dr. Loretta and Dr. Sheryl, any one of you want to chime in on that one? What do you think?
Okay, I'll start. It is really a good question, and I have to think of what do I do when I really can't step away from something. But last week, our guest, Jacqueline Manley, she says something and it made me really think. And I realized I do some of those things. She called it taking your meds, meditation, exercise, a healthy diet, and sleep. And I realized I believe in all of those. I do start my day with a meditation or a prayer. And I try to exercise at least 5 times a week for 30 minutes a day. And that's the beginning of my day. And that really does help me. And Well, I've started eating healthier, let me say
Mhm.
that. I
Okay.
still have my things that are a treat for me.
Mm.
And sleep, oh yeah, I'm gonna get my sleep. So, but when she said that,
Yeah.
it was like,
Oh,
oh, am I
good.
doing those? And I realized I was. So I loved it when Jacqueline Manley said that last
Yeah.
week about taking your meds. That really stuck with me. So, and I do try to do that. And it helps me when I know I can't step away and there are things I have to do. But just starting off the day like that really does help me.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. Yeah, she was great with her insight last
Yes.
week. Very
Yeah.
powerful. Dr.
Mhm.
Sher, how about you?
Yeah, I absolutely love the Mets as well. And I know that there is an author, I want to say his name is Simon Bailey. He kind of
Mm.
goes into more detail on that. And so um, absolutely agree with Dr. Loretta that and Jacqueline Manley
Yeah, yeah.
that being intentional about getting our meds is real important, that
Mhm.
meditation, exercise, diet, and sleep.
Yeah.
I think from this caller's perspective with regards to, Andre, could you read that question again?
The question came from, again, a small executive in the Midwest. She leads a small team, and honestly, there's no place to delegate to. Everyone tells me to set boundaries and take time off, but the work doesn't stop when I do. How do I
Mm.
manage stress when stepping away simply isn't an option?
Yeah, so I think such a realistic question. I think
Hmm.
that so
Absolutely.
many of us find ourselves in spaces where I'm like, who do I delegate this to? And I think there's always this assumption that there's excess time someplace that we're just not leveraging, or a resource or individual we're just not leveraging. And that may not always be the case. And so prioritizing
Mm.
becomes real important in those moments, and recognizing that capacity is limited. And sometimes we're working at a pace that's not necessarily sustainable. And we do have to step back and say, not that something is not important, everything is important, but we still need to prioritize things and say, based on priorities, what might I, or, um, how might I kind of create a path forward, starting with what might be most important to prioritize. And I think also just assessing where might we have become a bottleneck. Are there some things that are on our plate and we haven't delegated them because we don't think others could do it as well as we do it, or put the special touch on it? So, do I need to delegate? And I can't remember who the author was that talks about delegate, but that's developing others so that we can. Um, we might have a resource that if we develop them a little bit more, we might be less of a bottleneck, and be able to delegate not just tasks, but projects, because we've spent enough time kind of developing someone's expertise and thinking around some things. And then kind of going back to what Dr. Loretta said, maybe we can't take a week off,
Mm.
but we can look for those breaks in between, making sure that I put however much time we need in between meetings so they're not flush. So maybe it's that 5 minute break where I take a mindful minute and do a meditation, or just do some deep breathing, or going for a walk, or having a real lunch break where we literally stop. Because just like stress accumulates, those rest moments can also accumulate and help make a positive difference in our ability to sustain ourselves.
Yeah, yeah, excellent.
Agreed.
Yeah, and well, I agree with both of you. I think one thing that I learned years ago in leadership roles is, stop trying to delegate tasks. Instead, delegate decisions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even on
Mm-hmm.
small teams, there are choices you're
Yeah.
making that someone else could own with guardrails. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think for leaders, sometimes we think we have to own it all, and the weight
Mm-hmm.
becomes heavier because we think we have to own it all. And
Mm-hmm.
again, good leaders are folks who certainly can identify other folks who may be part of a small team, large team, medium-sized team, to say, let me delegate decision-making processes, and give it to someone else and trust them. And of course, put guardrails in place of that too. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that also is another a mental shift that the leaders need to make. Instead of trying to delegate stuff, task, delegate decision-making processes empowered. I think that becomes a true game changer as well. So, yeah, great.
Can I just add one
Please,
thing to what you said?
yeah,
It just
please.
made me think there are leaders who will do that delegation, and I love that delegate. That really works for me.
Mhm.
But the leader then really needs to let that go, you know what I'm
Mhm.
saying?
Yeah.
Or, of course you'll make sure that the person has everything that they need. That's part of the development
Right.
part, as Dr. White was talking about. But you can't just be like hovering over people all the time. It's like, then
Mhm.
you really didn't let it go or give them a chance to make those decisions. So
Mhm. Yeah.
sometimes we do have to determine, yes, you train someone, you develop them so that they can do that.
Right.
So I
Mhm.
agree.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Great. Dr. Loretta, are you that kind of leader?
I'm a firm believer
Okay.
in developing people. You know that throughout my career in organizational development and effectiveness, that was the part of HR I loved, helping people identify potential. Sometimes you can see it in them when they don't see it in themselves, but
Mm-hmm.
you actually have to give them a chance and give them tools. And if they make a mistake, you're not gonna, like fuss and have a rant about it. We've all made mistakes, but you
Mm-hmm.
work with them. What lesson did we learn from that mistake? But
Yeah.
I'm a true believer in allowing people to just flourish and
Mm-hmm.
develop and see
Right.
their own potential. Sometimes they don't, and you see it in them.
Yeah, absolutely. Dr.
I
Sheryl, how about
delegate
you?
to you, don't
All the time. And I delegate back. So
I?
that's how that works. That's how that works. Reciprocity.
Yeah.
Dr. Sheryl, you that kind of leader as well?
Um,
Delegation of task versus delegation.
well, I will delegate a project, and there are times when I need to pull myself out
Okay.
and do a better job of, like you said, Dr. Dre, putting those guardrails up
Yeah.
and then allowing people to run within those guardrails.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Hmm.
really important. Yeah.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
great, great. All right, we've got to get into a discussion. I know we're coming up on a break, but let me just throw this question out to both of you ladies, if there's a quick thought around this. So we're talking about the weight of the chair. What comes to mind from your own leadership journey when we talk about the weight of the chair that the leader sits in? What thoughts come to mind when we talk about this particular frame? Dr. Cheryl, Dr. Loretta, any thoughts around that? The weight
Yeah, and
of the chair.
the thought that I would have around that is that I think as leaders and in our roles, we can delegate authority. So, as you shared, Dr. Dre, we might delegate some authority for people to make some decisions. At the same time, we're not delegating the responsibility. We are
Mm,
still ultimately responsible, and that does have its weight.
yeah,
So we have to, I think that leaders, part of that weight is the mindfulness, one might say, or just the knowing that even if you've delegated it, you still own that responsibility. And with that, decisions that we make, there's a lot of uncertainty because we don't always know. We can play the tape to the end that we can see, but we don't always know for certain
mm,
how something's going to turn out. And I think that has some bearing on the weight of that chair. And then also knowing that our decisions can impact lives, our livelihoods,
right.
I think can also be one
Absolutely.
of those things that goes along with making that leadership role heavy sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. Very heavy. Dr. Loretta, anything from you to add to that?
I agree with what Dr. Cheryl said, but the thing that came to mind to me first was that it's not just the responsibility of everything, but it's the impact it's going to have. And in our business, it's the impact on employees, their lives. There's all these ripple effects, the clients that it has an impact on, agencies we work with, funders we work with. So all of those decisions, to me, that's part of the weight of the chair because you're trying to balance all of these and you want to make the right decisions, which is why you need to have good people around you to help you with that, because you can't always do it all. But it's the ripple effect because so many people are going to be impacted by some of those decisions.
Definitely. Absolutely. Totally agree with both of you. We're going to have to pick up this conversation on the other side of a break. But when we return, we'll talk a little bit more about this weight of the chair. Also, get into some discussion around the hidden costs that leaders bear as well as pay as we deal with the weight of the chair. and when we come back. So we want you to stay tuned. We've got much more discussion ahead of us, so stay tuned. We'll be right back with more Leadership Matters, informing leaders, inspiring solutions with the people's doctors.
Howard Communication Strategy Consultants, building stronger organizations through people. In today's rapidly changing business landscape, developing human capital is essential for companies to thrive. By investing in employee skills and fostering well-being, organizations can build a workforce with the expertise and adaptability needed to meet evolving challenges. Howard Communication Strategy Consultants, HCSC, provide detailed insights into current and future trends in human resource management and leadership development, allowing clients to streamline operations and lead with greater confidence. The team at HCSC works with companies of all sizes to evaluate current strategies, identify effective approaches, develop comprehensive plans, and measure progress regularly to ensure efforts deliver desired outcomes. With HCSC customized workshops and evaluations, experienced trainers develop programs tailored to each organization's specific needs and goals, resulting in improved employee engagement and effectiveness. Howard Communication Strategy Consultants. Call today and transform your workforce for tomorrow's success. 262-391-6076 or through email ask@howardcsc.com.
And we are back with more on Leadership Matters with the People's Doctors. For those who are just joining us, we are delving into the topic around stress and leadership, and stress in many different forms, examining it from different perspectives as well as aspects as well. Of course, I've got my co-hosts with me today, Dr. Sheryl and Dr. Loretta. So glad to be with you again today as part of that process. I'm glad you ladies don't stress me out as much. Well, maybe you do. I don't know. Maybe I am stressed.
Or maybe it's the reverse.
Right.
Okay. It could be that too as well.
Right.
So
We're waiting for that question to come through that's totally
I'm sure.
unexpected.
I am sure. I am sure. But while we're talking about stress, I want to just share with folks, we've got an upcoming session. We had one back in June. We've got another one scheduled for the 25th of September. Strategies for dealing with conflict, which can be stressful as well. And we want folks to join us. There's a QR code. Take a quick snapshot of that. We want you to be with us. We're going to have some great discussion with leaders across the nation. Dr. Sheryl, Dr. Loretta is going to be leading us in some powerful strategizing around dealing with conflict. We'll get a chance to do some small group work and discussions, as well as to share and just exchange and hear others' voices on this topic. So we are excited about this next iteration of strategies for dealing with conflict. We want you to be there. So please go ahead and register today. You've got that at the bottom, or you can simply scan that QR code and secure your seat. Space is limited for this wonderful opportunity. So we hope to see you there as well. So Dr. White, we were talking about the whole stress. So let me just throw this over to you to kind of continue our discussion.
Okay. So we know that there is a difference between stress and burnout. How might you actually help leaders recognize which one they're experiencing?
I can take the first swing of that. I'll try to do my best with
Okay.
that. That's a great question. I think the simplest test I give leaders is really stress says there's too much, and burnout says there's nothing left. So stress is kind of a demand problem, too much coming at you. And I look at burnout being more of a depletion problem. So your capacity to care is kind of eroded. You're just blanked. And stress leaders are overengaged. Burnout leaders are disengaged and cynical to some degree as well. And I think the other piece I'll add to that particular question is the dangerous part is that burnout often masquerades as competence. You're still showing up, still producing, but the joy, the empathy, the creativity, all of that, and even the civility, all goes away. It's gone. It's disappeared. So I kind of, I guess, juxtapose it in terms of those two ways in terms of thinking about the stress, defining stress and the burnout piece in those parameters. So if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, makes a lot of sense. Thanks, Dr. Dre. How about yourself, Dr. Loretta?
Yeah, I like what you said, Dr. Dre. When I think of stress, I think, well, there's maybe something that a person can do to help alleviate some of the stress. Maybe it is taking a little break, vacation, getting away for a couple of days, even if it's a staycation at home, but really doing something for yourself in that. And when it's burnout, I absolutely agree that it's like overexhaustion. No matter what you do, you can't find that joy again, and you're just like literally exhausted. Maybe taking 10 steps, you're exhausted. Talking to people in meetings is just so exhausting, and it can become that part where you get they'll say, oh, you used to be so nice, what happened? You got so mean, why are you talking to people like that? And you don't even realize you're doing it, but it's like you're on the verge of that rubber band that has been stretched so far and it's about to pop.
Mhm.
And that might be a time when you need to seek some help or make a change in your life, something drastic. But burnout is, yeah, I agree, totally disengaged and angry. Of
Mhm.
course.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with both of you. I think that burnout is definitely much deeper and can impact a person's, as you're saying, Dr. Loretta, I can feel drained. Um, my motivation and sense of
Mhm.
purpose can feel like it's leaving me. Whereas stress may just be, like you said, Dr. Loretta, I need a break.
Right.
I need to step away for a moment. So I think stress can be just, one might say, connected to a temporary state. We got to really focus on getting this project done. And then after this heightened level, one might say, of stress, we are able to regroup, take a break and regroup and kind of go back into our groove. But burnout is much more serious. And hopefully, before we get there, we do recognize it and shift gears because it can be difficult once we've actually hit the wall with burnout. So thank
Yeah.
you.
I think just to add to a little bit more, the mental health piece is an important part. And
Oh,
I know that's not our topic for
Mhm.
today, but the mental health leaders so
Yeah.
many times disregard their mental health, right? They
Mhm.
just take it for granted, like it's always going to be there, like it's always going to be in place. And we
Mhm.
really have to make sure we keep in check with our mental health and take it seriously. So sometimes we got to check out, and we encourage folks, whether it's in the private world or the private sector or the nonprofit world, to go check in with your psychologist, psychiatrist, your counselor, whomever it might be, and take care of that mental as well as part of that process. So I just wanted to add that on into that discussion as well. So
Mhm. Mhm.
absolutely.
Um,
Okay, well, looking at the hidden toll. So I'm going to start with Dr. Dre. The question is, many leaders wear exhaustion like a badge of honor. Just talking about burnout. This is great. Where do you think that culture comes from and what does it cost us? Start with you, Dr. Dre, and then Dr. Cheryl.
well, here I go again. Exhaustion, badge of honor, possibly. All right. I mean, I got to be honest and full disclosure. I used to think, boy, exhaustion meant, boy, you were working hard as a leader. You showed your proof that you are worthy of leadership. When you could come to the table and say, I am just exhausted. I've been up for 23 hours and I had to, troubleshoot through all kinds of things. And I did wear it as a badge because I thought, hey, that is the true sign of a great leader. Well, I was wrong just a little bit, right? I think some of it comes from the way we were raised in leadership, right? I mean, I think many of us perhaps came up in cultures, whether it's in the private for-profit world, the public sector, whatever it might have been, where sacrifice was the currency of commitment. If you weren't tired, if you weren't serious, if you weren't really engaged or over-engaged, you're not doing your job as a leader. And so I think you couldn't just be good. When I think about some of the lessons I learned coming up under some pretty rigorous leaders, you had to be twice as good. So rest felt like risk. Rest? No, I can't rest. I got to continue to work. And so I think, when we start to think about that, we miss those early warning signs when we don't take heed to that. We make a lot of mistakes. as part of that process. And the badge of exhaustion is really an IOU, and the bill always, I always say, the bill always comes due in your health, in your family, in your relationships, in your organization, just all around. So I think we have to, again, kind of resize and rethink that badge of honor and being equated to working hard as a leader.
Hey, Dr. Cheryl, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would certainly agree with Dr. Dre. And does become important not to confuse being busy with being of value. We can pace ourselves and still be of value. And like the cost, I think, Dr. Loretta, that you asked, what's the cost of it? I will underscore the poor health. Sometimes the cost is high turnover. Weaker leadership because people can't think clearly when they're exhausted. So the cost can be really high when one is equating exhaustion to a badge of honor, and that becomes the norm for the culture.
Indeed, I absolutely agree with both of you. And I started thinking, when I first got into the workplace and leaders who I watched, their first in, their last out, they were there for, it's an 8-hour day with a lunch break, but they just worked through everything. And I thought that's what you had to do to be a good and effective leader. But it turned out they were ineffective because, like you say, the cost behind it, their health, there's a lot of turnover sometimes. In the different roles. And, that rest is not a sign of weakness. You really have to take care of yourself, but you lose, again, people, creativity. And that sets a whole tone because, I was much younger and I thought, oh, that's what I had to do to be a good leader. And you will get yourself in a hospital if you just push yourself too much like that. And it's like, is the leadership worth it? Okay, maybe I don't need to get to the top of the ladder. Let me just go up 1 or 2 steps until I had to learn that. But everything you both said, I agree with that. And we definitely send the wrong message to people if they start looking at you thinking, oh, that's what I got to do. And there's a new generation. They're not going to do that.
No,
Mhm.
absolutely not.
Yeah. So many will opt out before they, decide to adapt that as a lifestyle.
Yeah.
Right,
Mhm.
right.
But isn't that pressure put on by our teams though too as well? I mean, don't we overachieve as leaders because our team expects us to stay in the workplace for 15, 16 hours? And aren't you deemed lazy and ineffective because you come in at 8 and you leave at 4, you take an hour lunch break. Doesn't the organization put that kind of undue stress on us? So we have to outperform as
Mhm.
part of that process.
Yeah, I would think just the opposite. I think very often the leader is the one who's setting the culture. Now, I may have someone above me who's kind of setting expectations, but we very often are setting the norms
Hmm.
for, what's expected will very often be mirrored from what we are reflecting down within the organization. So
Yeah.
if we are working from sun up to sundown and beyond,
Mhm.
our work very often rolls downhill, which means that staff may find themselves doing the same.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And that term that they have about family friendly and all that, if people are watching you do that, no, that's not family friendly to someone who really has a family to go
Mhm.
home to. They don't get to spend time with them. And a part of me, when you were asking that, Dr. Dre, I'm like, so is that just the traditions that, we were steeped in? Or was someone actually insecure about
Mhm.
their own role? Could it be some insecurity because you got somebody over you with these expectations as well? And it's like,
Mhm.
no,
Mhm.
that could be too. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes people look for validation
Right.
too, and they're not getting.
yeah,
Sometimes we are working in environments where they're just not affirming,
Right.
and so it becomes important sometimes for us to, one might say, sell up or
yes,
share up what we
Mhm.
think our accomplishments for any given period of time might should be, because people get on that treadmill chasing success,
Right.
chasing validation, and burn themselves out in the
yes,
process of trying to prove something when they don't really need to prove anything.
Right.
But what they end up proving is that they are human, and
Yes.
and the pace that they're setting for themselves is not sustainable.
Right.
Right,
Yeah.
Uh,
Right.
right.
yeah.
Definitely.
But on that, thinking about chronic stress, how does chronic stress show up as relates to the leader's decision making, relationships, the team culture, maybe even when the leader doesn't really realize it? What are
Mm,
your thoughts?
yeah. Another good one. I mean,
Yeah.
I think, go ahead, Dr. Loretta.
No, I was gonna say I think it might kind of sneak up on us. We don't even
Hmm.
realize it at
Right.
first, but you know, having tunnel vision, indecisiveness, sometimes things like that. Again, like I was talking earlier, somebody screaming or ranting and raving, you're less patient possibly with people because you used to be so nice. What's wrong with you
Hmm.
now? That kind of
Right.
thing. And
Right.
other people will see it in you before you recognize it in yourself sometimes because
Yeah.
you just think, "Oh, I'm just trying to, do what I got to do. I got due dates and everything." But other people realize something's going on with you sometimes.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would just add to that. I mean, I think it's really important for us as leaders to kind of think about, the early warning signs, particularly burnout, where it used to be easy decision making. Now small decision making really starts to feel heavy. Things like, what do I eat and how do I celebrate a win? I mean, those things really become arduous and very heavy for us. But I think about this chronic stress, you really start to, as you think about making decisions, drift towards like a short-term relief instead of long-term wisdom. You pick the fastest answer, not the best one. You become very transactional in your relationships versus transformational and life-changing. And you choose and treat people, your team, as leftovers, right? And in team culture, that's part of perhaps where leaders begin to underestimate what the team can do and be part of as well. So I kind of think about chronic stress showing up that way as well. So
Yeah, no, thank you.
yeah. So all right, great discussion. We've got much more, and I know we're against the break again here. The time goes so fast, but when we come back, we're going to go even deeper and talk about stress and really begin to think about, what are some of the strategies we can do? How do I recover? How do I discipline myself in terms of mending, being stressed out as a leader? So we're going to take a break and we're going to talk about some of those things when we come back, plus get to our second audience question as well. So please stay tuned. We'll be right back with more on Leadership Matters, informing leaders, inspiring solutions with the people's doctors.
Leadership Matters is brought to you by Innovisions. Need to improve leadership, staff, or organization performance? Contact Innovisions today for quality, effective, and affordable leadership, staff, and organization development training, coaching, and consulting services. Call 619-453-8093. That's 619-453-8093. Or send an email to Dr. White. Her email address is swhite@neighborhoodhouse.org. Innovisions is a social enterprise of the Neighborhood House Association of San Diego, California. Funds raised go to support the Neighborhood House Association's mission to enrich lives through a continuum of education and wellness service.
And we are back with more on Leadership Matters with the People's Doctors. And for those who are just joining us, we are really taking a deep dive in terms of looking at stress and leaders. And we've been examining it from different aspects and perspectives. And so, really, hopefully, this dialogue discussion has been really rich for our listeners. Again, always love to hear your feedback. So share with us what you think about this particular topic. Perhaps you've got questions you might want to also put on the air for us to kind of talk about and discuss as well as part of that process. But I want to get to our second question, and I know we had a couple of our listeners saying, what's the exact place I can send my questions to? Because I do have questions, and I thought you guys said it's leadershipinnovations.org. What is that all about? So here it is. It's Leadership Matters questions at innovisions.org. So it's spelled out right there for you. That's where you see your questions, comments, reflections. If you like Dr. Loretta, if you like Dr. Sheryl or not, send us your opinion. Let us know what you think. If it's good, send it to me. If it's not so good, send it to my my colleagues on the screen. So that's where you want to send it to. Leadership Matters questions at innovisions.org. We read every comment. We read every question that comes across the screen for us, so please feel free to do that as well. Upcoming topics you want to hear about, please give us some suggestions as well as part of that process. But let's get to our second audience question, which I thought was very good. And the second audience question is, I think, from a middle manager in the healthcare for-profit realm. And they ask, I can see the signs of burnout in myself, but I'm afraid that if I say something to my boss or my board, I'll look weak. We just kind of talked a little bit about that. Or even worse, they'll start questioning whether I can handle the job. So how do I ask for help without damaging my credibility? So and it's a very powerful question, very reality for a lot of leaders as well. So again, they see the signs of burnout in themselves, they recognize it, but they're afraid that if they say something to their boss or to their board, they'll look weak. And then perhaps those board members or leaders might start asking them whether that person can handle the job or not. So how do I ask for help without damaging my credibility? So, Dr. Sheryl, Dr. Loretta, what do you think?
Hmm. I think it's important for us to first recognize, and to the person who sent this question, I think it's wonderful that you have the self-awareness to know, like, I feel like I might be approaching burnout. That awareness in and of itself says that it's likely that you have good self-awareness, which then supports you with some ability to think about how you might regulate and manage the situation differently. So it shows some leadership maturity. So kudos to you for just having it on the radar and then having that mature conversation. It's not that we're going to say nothing is likely not going to be the answer to helping the situation. And being dramatic and saying I'm overloaded is probably not going to help. However, if you can accept and say, hey, the pace at which we're working currently is not sustainable, it says that you can look beyond what is and see the trend of how things are going. So this isn't sustainable, maybe the conversation. And again, going back to prioritizing. So right now, given our resources that we have, if we have more resources, we probably could do more of these things. But if we don't have additional resources coming, we probably want to step back and begin to prioritize. So I think really being able to, one, not view it as a weakness, but actually view it as leadership maturity to be able to recognize when you or others might be approaching burnout, to step back soon enough to call it out and say, hey, we're working at a pace that's not sustainable. And let's begin to talk about priorities or getting additional resources if all of these priorities have to stay and nothing can be adjusted.
Right. Yeah, like that. Excellent. Dr. Loretta.
I absolutely agree with everything Dr. Sheryl said, because sometimes people who are at that high performing level, they feel like, oh, I can't let anybody know that, I'm feeling this way. But I think, good leaders, they're going to respect you for even bringing that to their attention, and that self-awareness part, because if you keep pushing it, you might fall out at work. Something could happen drastically.
Mhm.
So, having that conversation, like Dr. Sheryl said, and there's just a way to do that because it's not sustainable. So looking for some solutions or options that could help you.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And I agree with both of you ladies. I think that's so important. And again, kudos to you recognizing the signs of burnout. And again, I think for me, perhaps one way to think about it is, if you have to have that discussion, don't lead with your exhaustion, lead with the work. Instead of saying I'm burnt out, perhaps you say, well, here's what's on my plate, and here's the risk we're at if I don't adjust at this point in time. And here's what I'm proposing. So, you kind of start out from that perspective. It's something like the paraverbal, not what you say is how you say what you say. So sometimes changing that language around as well makes a big difference as part of the process. And let me just be very blunt and open and honest. If you are working in an organization that truly punishes a capable leader for telling the truth about their capacity, that tells you something about the culture in the organization. And you've got some decisions to make too as well. Ain't giving no advice. I know Dr. Dre, but something to think about. All right. Great
Mhm.
question. So keep sending those questions in. Hopefully that helped that audience member as well. Dr. Loretta, let's talk a little bit about pressure and strain. What's all that about?
Okay, well, something that I'm sure you would say, Dr. Dre, not all
Uh-oh.
pressure is bad.
Right.
Some of it's good.
Right.
That's how they create diamonds, through pressure, right? Right. So
I like that. That's
some
wonderful.
pressure refines us, right? But how do you help leaders tell the difference between productive pressure and destructive strain? So, Dr. Dre, why don't you answer that for us first?
Oh boy. And I do think pressure. I think a little pressure is good. I do. I really do think. But I also, as you brought out, I think it's got to be productive pressure, right? Something that stretches you towards something, right? Taking you to the next level. I think without pressure, productive pressure, there's no growth in that process. So I think a little pressure that's productive is a good thing. Destructive strain kind of grinds you kind of down with no finish line. And again, so I just want to be very careful and just put out there. I do believe in pressure, good pressure, positive pressure, because it has a purpose, it has a season. But I also, want leaders to recognize that not all pressure is good pressure. And so pressure that never resolves because the system is designed wrongly or it's ill-produced pressure, that doesn't get you anywhere. So I just want to make it clear that I think there is some pressure that's good if it's productive. It stretches you, it motivates you, it gets you to the next level. You're able to breathe, you're able to relax a little bit and get to the next level from that perspective. So that's how I would answer that.
Mhm.
Dr. Cheryl?
Yeah, I agree. I think some key words I heard in Dr. Dre, I'll just pull out was growth, so that productive um, pressure leads to growth, whereas the destructive um, does just that. It can be destructive and can gradually erode a person's self-confidence and energy and so on and so forth. So I think that would be the thing that we might ask ourselves as leader. Am I growing this person or am I actually slowly and consistently depleting them? And based on that, you know, how would I need to adjust in my leadership style?
Right.
I agree with both of you that productive pressure. I think sometimes it can almost energize you to want to do more, for people who like a little bit of a challenge. And I'm a
Mhm.
very competitive person when it comes to board games and stuff. So I love that kind of pressure.
Yeah, you are
And the
competitive.
family, they all know it is like, okay, here she comes,
All
right?
right.
But that destructive strain is, to me, it reminds me of what we talked about with the burnout. It's the
Mhm.
weight of it and, the exhaustion of it, and that's not really good for anyone. And then sometimes people start withdrawing from situations. So yeah, yeah, there's definitely a different, some pressure, it's okay, but you don't want to be pushed too much, and then they start withdrawing. So yeah, I agree with both of you.
Absolutely. Great. Dr. Cheryl, how about you? What would you talk a little bit about recovery discipline before we take a quick break?
Yeah, yes. I know we've talked about self-care
Yeah.
being a leadership discipline and not a luxury, so real important. What does that look like? If you were to say, maybe think about a leader's weekly rhythm,
Mm.
what does well-disciplined self-care look like?
Well, I'm going to go back to what I mentioned earlier. It's taking that time like to start my day. That has really helped me a lot with the meditation or prayer. And then to take a few days to exercise, because that really, it kind of pumps me up, makes me really feel good, and it helps me to start my day. I don't let anything interrupt that day. My phone could be buzzing, somebody could be trying to contact me. I'm not going to stop because I need that time to myself just to begin my day with the right mindset. Because we get so caught up with our devices and we're always looking at them. That's my no device, nothing. Have a books that I'll read or something just to, it makes a difference. It really makes a difference for me, where I'm turning a page or whatever I have to do. I mean, really, but that it makes a difference for me instead of the device because they can be so distracting. But I had at first, I started off, I was like, oh, well, maybe I should do the phone, but I really had to disconnect. And that I feel that it has made me a better person. I literally go in and I'm like, hi, how are you today? I'm turning to a nicer person. Okay, transparency. Yeah, I was that person who was like, you used to be so nice.
Right.
I'm trying to work my way back.
Right. Right.
Thank you, Dr. Loretta. How about yourself, Dr.
Yeah,
Gray?
that's great. I mean, I would think what Dr. Loretta has stated. I think for me, it looks scheduled, not spontaneous, right? In other words, I want to be intentional about making time for myself in terms of the self-care. I think you have to put into your schedule, just like you put everything else into your schedule, put this piece of time into your schedule as well. So block a time where I can, reflect, think about what's happening now, think about where I need to go in the future. And so I think that's important is to kind of look back and examine what's depleted me, what was draining for me, how can I change the game moving forward. I think, we talk about physical activity. Physical activity, I like to say I work out 3 hours a day, 7 days a week. Not close to that, but I think that physical movement and momentum, whatever it is, I think is important too as well because it gets the juices running and the blood pumping as part of that process. And so I think, just making sure I pour into myself, whether it's a different reading I do on a weekly basis, a reflection moment, journaling, whatever it might be. I think all of that is important for me into this recovery and discipline piece of self-care.
I agree with both of you. Love the meds, love the scheduling. I
Yeah.
know for myself, and I think that's important for us to recognize who has access to our calendar
Oh,
because
that's good.
sometimes knowing who has access to our calendar, we may have to block off or we may have to communicate to them how to block off or
Right.
what's our rhythm. I know
Right.
for myself, I really need 30 minutes in between appointments.
Okay.
So those who are doing my calendaring for me, when they're looking, then they know that's my cadence because when I finish one appointment, I need to maybe take notes from that appointment. I might want to go to the bathroom, might want to grab a snack, and then I need to read what I need to read to get prepared for the next appointment.
Right.
So if I don't have time in between, then I'm either not capturing what I need to capture for the meeting that just ended, not getting myself refreshed so that I've gone to the bathroom and do what I need to do so I can be attentive during the upcoming meeting. And then I might need to read some things or get some things so I can walk into the next meeting. But for me to know that I need 30 minutes in between and not to communicate it means it's not going to happen. So I'd
Exactly.
say, with the scheduling, I'm off with, I always tell staff if it's not on my calendar, it's not going to happen. So
Right.
we really need to even schedule the meds sometimes. I
Right.
need to make sure that I've considered, when does my day need to end so I get some sleep. If I got to start, we work with people there and we work with people internationally. So sometimes it's 6 o'clock in the morning start, very early start means I need to see that and go to bed early, so all those things, but it does go down to being intentional or we
Mhm.
don't get our meds, meditation, exercise, diet, and sleep, or we may not necessarily get the prep time we need to reset and
Right.
be at our best.
Love it. Yep. Love it.
Yeah,
Excellent,
I'm
excellent.
glad you said that too, Dr. Cheryl, about needing that break in between meetings and people who schedule your calendars. Because if they see that open spot, oh, she got time for a 15-minute meeting.
Right,
And it's
No,
like,
I don't.
no, you don't.
right. Absolutely,
Mhm.
absolutely. Yeah, I think, and we've got to have maybe a topic around meetings and leaders and how they use meetings and meeting times. That'd be a powerful topic as well. So, but we are up against the break. I appreciate all of this knowledge and wonderful wisdom from my colleagues on the radio show. I mean, it's really something for us to think about as leaders as we think about this whole paradigm around stress and what it truly means for us as leaders in terms of where we're at now, where we need to go. So, but we got to take a quick break. When we return, on the other side of the break is a rapid fire. I'm going to take each of you ladies as well as myself through a rapid fire exchange. And when we come back, and then we'll talk a little bit about wrapping up and some pointers that certainly leaders who are listening to us can take home with them and begin to kind of think about in their own daily routines as part of that process. So stay tuned. We'll be right back with more on Leadership Matters, informing leaders, inspiring solutions with the people's doctors.
Howard Communication Strategy Consultants, building stronger organizations through people. In today's rapidly changing business landscape, developing human capital is essential for companies to thrive. By investing in employee skills and fostering well-being, organizations can build a workforce with the expertise and adaptability needed to meet evolving challenges. Howard Communication Strategy Consultants, HCSC, provide detailed insights into current and future trends in human resource management and leadership development, allowing clients to streamline operations and lead with greater confidence. The team at HCSC works with companies of all sizes to evaluate current strategies, identify effective approaches, develop comprehensive plans, and measure progress regularly to ensure efforts deliver desired outcomes. With HCSC customized workshops and evaluations, experienced trainers develop programs tailored to each organization's specific needs and goals, resulting in improved employee engagement and effectiveness. Howard Communication Strategy Consultants. Call today and transform your workforce for tomorrow's success. 262-391-6076 or through email ask@howardcsc.com.
And we are back with more on Leadership Matters with the People's Doctors. And for those who are just joining us, again, you've missed out on some great discussion, but you can certainly download the podcast the following day, listen to it, share it with your friends, colleagues across the nation, everyone in your circle. Please spread the podcast to those as well. You know, for some reason, as we talk about this whole piece around stress and leadership, I'm feeling less stressed myself as we go through this because, you know, hearing the pearls of wisdom from Dr. Loretta and Dr. Cheryl, I'm feeling less stress. That's a powerful thing. Wow. Isn't that something, or is it just me? Oh, maybe it's just me, but I'm just glad that we're talking
Glad
about
you're
this
less stressed.
because, you know, we don't get a chance to talk. Leaders don't talk enough about the whole power stress, the costs that are attributed to stress as well. So this has been really great having this discussion. Let's get into our rapid fire. I think we've got a few rapid fire questions. What I'm going to do is Dr. Cheryl, I'll take you through, and Dr. Loretta, I'll take you through it, and then we'll go from there. How about that? So
Okay.
I love rapid fire rounds. So here we go. All right, Dr. Cheryl, one word that describes how leaders should respond to stress.
Awareness.
Okay. Dr. Loretta?
Calm.
Okay.
Ooh,
Um, rest or exercise, which recharges you faster, Dr. Cheryl?
I'm gonna say rest.
Okay. Dr. Loretta?
Definitely rest for me.
I would like to say exercise, but for me, truly is rest.
Yeah,
Okay.
the truth
All
is
right.
rest.
All right. Biggest burnout myth.
For me, it's when things come down or slow down, I'll slow down.
Okay.
Or that, oh, you can push through it. You can just push through that.
Okay.
You can do it.
Mhm.
Right. Dr. Cheryl, a book every stressed leader should read.
I like Wendy McKinney's Busy Doing What.
Yep.
Yes, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that book. Yeah, it's really good. And I've started reading The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. So that's interesting too. Things let them do, but then things for letting me do as well. So I like
Mhm.
that.
Great. Excellent. Dr. Cheryl, first thing you do when you feel overwhelmed?
Uh, Deep breathing.
Okay. Dr. Loretta?
Mhm.
I'm a lister. I actually start listing my priorities, what really has to be done. That gives me a visual.
Okay. Great. Dr. Cheryl, delegation, is it a strength or a surrender?
Definitely a strength.
Dr. Loretta?
Strength.
Okay. Dr. Cheryl, best advice you ever received about slowing down?
Mm, Making sure that if I'm feeling a sense of urgency, that it's really about the situation and it's not something that's coming from within myself.
Okay. Great. Dr.
Mhm.
Loretta?
A wise man told me once to live in the present.
Okay.
Mm.
Great. Great. I won't ask you who that wise man was. Dr. Cheryl, complete this sentence. A healthy leader is a blank leader.
I'm gonna say marathon.
Okay.
Marathon, you're kind of like you're pacing yourself for the long
Okay.
run. Sometimes sprint leaders, you're doing it all and then you burn out. So I
Sure.
would say the marathon leader
Okay.
in it for the long haul, pacing ourselves.
Sure.
Mhm.
Great. Excellent. Dr.
And
Loretta?
my thought was balance because
Oh,
healthy
I
is
like that.
mentally, emotionally,
Hmm.
physically. So balanced.
Okay.
Hmm.
Like that.
Yeah.
Great. All right. You ladies passed the test.
All right, well, let us put you through the test now.
Uh-oh.
All right,
Okay.
Dr. Dre, one word that describes how leaders should respond to stress.
Um, Rhythm.
Rest or exercise, which recharges you faster?
Rest. But again, I think exercise uh, keeps the rest honest, if that makes sense.
Biggest burnout myth?
That only happens to weak leaders. Burnout mostly takes out the strong ones, the ones who never said no.
A book every stress leader should read.
Oh, there's so many favorites. Let me put one up here for you. One I just love, and maybe it's a shameless plug. But this one here, is this the way it's supposed to be? Wow. Wonderful pearls of knowledge and wisdom all throughout this book. If you haven't got your copy, you need to grab a copy today. Barnes& and Noble, Amazon. But it just has wonderful pearls there in terms of really thinking about leadership from different aspects in terms of lived experiences. So that's the one I'll put a plug into. So.
Mm, love it.
Wonderful. Okay. First thing you do when you feel overwhelmed.
I think stop, meditate, reflect, right? And then I kind of write down, sometimes things that actually matter for me today and finding purpose in that.
Okay. Delegation, strength or surrender?
Um, Strength. I mean, surrender is doing it all yourself until you collapse. And I think Dr. Cheryl a couple weeks ago said, then you die. So we don't want to just die.
Best advice you ever received about slowing down.
Well, I got to go with my mom. She always used to say, you can shake it off and step up, but you can't pour from an empty vessel. So fill up first.
All right.
Hmm.
Complete this sentence. A healthy leader is a blank leader.
I think a lasting leader, right? I think health is what turns a season of impact into legacy of impact. So I think a lasting leader, um, and thinking about health, I think is really important. So yeah,
Dr. Cheryl, do you think he passed?
He passed.
so of
All
course,
right, you
of course he
passed
passed.
this week.
Love that book recommendation too.
Yeah, yeah,
I
it's
know,
great.
right? That
It's
was
great.
really
Is this
nice.
the way it's supposed to be?
Right,
Exactly,
is
right,
this the way?
exactly. So.
Absolutely.
All right. So one, ladies, as we wrap up, because we're coming to a close of this particular session, it went so fast. Anything
Mm.
you would add to the discussion we've had so far? One thought that comes to mind, either Dr. Loretta, Dr. Shirley, anything you would add to this particular discussion?
Well, for me, just the leaders do need to take care of themselves. That's really important. You can't be your best self if you're not taking care of yourself. So,
Definitely.
Mhm. Yeah, and I'll just echo the marathon leader,
Yeah,
taking care of ourselves, pacing ourselves so that you don't burn out. Look at that journey not as a sprint, but as you know, can I get to um, what's the long-term impact I can have if I stay in the
absolutely.
race? And I can't stay in the race if I'm not pacing myself and taking
Yeah,
care of myself.
absolutely.
Hmm.
Ladies, again, I think I learn more from you than anything when we do these shows. But I think the other piece to this is I think leaders need to talk about this particular topic more. It's okay to have these kinds of discussions. Make this maybe part of your weekly meeting to say, hey, how are you guys doing with stress? What's it
Hmm.
looking like for you? What can you do to kind of manage that process and kind of think forward? So I would just add that to it in terms of it's okay to talk about it. I think leaders, we shun away from it, but it needs to be on the topic discussion table as well. So great. All right. Just one more. I just want to put up again for those who are looking to send us questions, feedback, leadership matters, questions at innovisions.org. That's where you can send the questions may want us to address on the air. If you've got the topics you want to hear, give us some feedback. But we also want you to kind of share and spread the news about Leadership Matters with the people's doctors. There's some good discussion taking place, and we want folks to be part of it as well. So that's where you can kind of send your questions and comments and feedback as well. So which I think is important. So I want to just thank everyone for being with us today. Again, Dr. Cheryl, Dr. Loretta, always a delight, always an honor, always a pleasure. Appreciate you ladies being with me.
Yes.
Again, send those questions in. Join us every Wednesday on YouTube at 2 p.m. Pacific time, or download us on the very next day on Thursday at your convenience on demand. And you can go to Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Spotify. It's out there. So again, take note of it, listen to it, spread it to a colleague, a friend, a family member, and let them know something's good taking place on Wednesdays and Thursdays with this particular show. So until next time, on Leadership Matters with the People's Doctors, where we are informing leaders, inspiring solutions. And guess what, folks? Your leadership does matter. Until next time, thank you.